Okay, so before we dive into the applications, I'm going to quickly check whether we have any questions in the chat. Let's see. So far, it doesn't look like we have any questions. If you want, you can take note of your questions and we'll address them at the end of the session too. I'll go ahead and move on then. All right, so applications. Enplug has a lot of different applications. They have social media apps. So that means that whether you use Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you can connect your account. You can be very specific in what you want to share, what you don't want to share. They even have the ability to approve certain posts, which would just mean that someone would have to log in a little more frequently rather than just connecting it and letting it display everything. They do have active filters so that you can filter out, things like profanity or just really, standard type filters, and they have settings as well. You can also, with some of the applications, for example, the graphics and video, some of the other content displaying applications, such as YouTube, and I think the social media ones as well, you can actually customize schedules and give it, time limits, when you don't want it to display certain information, when you want certain things to take priority, take over, regardless of what else you have in your queue or in your little playlist, then it'll take over if you use the priorities. And there's a lot more functionality as well. We'll try to show you exactly where those functionalities are, but in the interest of time, we may not have actual, deep dive into those scheduling functionalities. But on the bright side, Enplug does have a really good support and article system where you can accomplish those things. All right, so the first set of apps that we will focus on is social media. So I did mention you can connect your accounts, you can set filters, you can really dive into the settings and make it custom in the way you like. So I'm going to go and switch back to our little test display group here. And I'm going to quickly show you, for example, our first three that we have here are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Each of these displays content a little differently. For example, if we go into, let's go with Facebook. So when you click the application from your display group, what it's going to do is it's going to show you a list. And the list that it shows you is essentially all the different display groups that are currently displaying Facebook content. And before I dive into what the settings looks like, I will point out that the managing posts option is right on this screen. So if you have a setting on for approvals and you want somebody to actively approve each post that does get shared onto your digital display, then this is where you would do that from. You would click the Manage Posts button for that Facebook, essentially, content. And we don't have that option turned on, so we don't see any posts here. But if we did, they would all be here, and then you could go through them and approve them. Then they would appear in the live post section at the left. So I'm going to go to some of these settings here. Okay. So just to quickly show you again what that looks like, I'm going to go back to the Facebook app just so you see the navigation, because over time you'll find it actually has a lot of different ways that you could navigate to this content. Let me go back here. Again, if you click Facebook, and let's say it really doesn't matter because you can choose the group from there too. So here we have, we actually don't have our Facebook connected to this one. Let me go back again. Okay, there you go. All right, so this is the correct one. We have the ITS Facebook connected here. Once you connect it, you can go into the settings and you can set the filter that you would like, and the pre-approval option right here. This is what I was talking about, where if you turn it on, then someone needs to just log in and approve those posts that it has pending for you. But otherwise, if you turn it off, these profanity filters are they're very useful and functional. You can also choose to exclude posts older than a certain number of days. For our Instagram, we have it set to 2 days because some of the information, it's still relevant. But after 2 days, we have it to just, recache and show new things or just eliminate that post. So there really isn't much when it comes to social media other than some default themes that you could choose from, and actually you could create your custom theme too. The one that we're using is just the standard that it comes with, but if you do have preferences, you can always edit a theme and then it becomes a copy. You can put your custom colors, but again, just with any other content that goes on here, just make sure that it's going to be accessible to everybody, that it has enough contrast. So if you pick any colors here, for example, bad example, nobody really uses this much anymore, but if you happen to use yellow text on white, that's not recommended. But just to show you what the settings look like, once you click edit, it shows you a little preview of a certain post that you may have, and you can choose the content, font, the color, the background color. You could get, really specific. You can even put a background image, but again, the simpler you keep things, the better. And you can even see a preview of it in a different orientation if you just quickly want to see a preview of it. And once you start editing something, it automatically just becomes a copy of the standard if you happen to start editing a standard one. I'm just going to go ahead and close this. That was just a quick little overview of what you can do. Other than that, there isn't much. The image formatting, you just have two options. It'll either zoom in and cut out content, which if you are creating graphics and posting them onto your social media that may not fit exactly to your screen, you may not want to go with the cover because then vital information might get cut off. So for our own, we usually just go with the contain formatting. That way the whole image does display, and if it is not exactly displaying correctly in the display, what it does is it accounts for that by just using accent colors from the image itself and filling in any gaps that there might be. So you can spend a little time and customize this, play around with it, and if you want, you could get a preview of what it would look like, an actual preview of just your Facebook content. This is essentially what it looks like. So if you don't want to spend time in the main preview of the display group that we saw first, then you can go to each application and they all have their own display preview button as well, if you just quickly want to see what that looks like. So you can tell, it looks pretty nice. So for the most part, we only see our own posts here. So the other social media apps are pretty much very similar. When you first click on the main application, it'll display a list of all the different, essentially, accounts that have been connected. So for this one, MyCalStateLA is the ITS account. Once we click on that, it might take a little time to open, but same thing. So all of the social media apps have the same options where you can set the theme, you can choose the format of the image, the filters. We haven't actually played around with the call to action screen. And I'll quickly just turn it on just to see what this is. Okay. You can play around with this some other time, get to know it a little better. For now, I'm going to turn it off, but usually what call to action is if you want people to engage more, actively actually engage with a post that you have, it might be something interesting for future use. For now, we're just going to turn it off. Another social media related app that I do want to point out is the social media collage. This is really cool because what it does is it creates a collage of all your different social media posts. So it combines Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And just to show you what that roughly looks like, you do have some options in here and a rough view of what it would look like. But as long as you have all your accounts connected in each of the separate apps, so we do have our Twitter connected as well. And so it's just grabbing all the same information and combining it, merging it. It's just something different for your digital displays to show users. And then it just goes right back to circulating the different content that you have from each. So another app that is related to social media is YouTube, but I'm going to save that for a little later because that one works a little differently. For now, I do want to see if anybody has any questions about any of the social media apps or the collage app. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. We have two devices that are next to each other in the library, and I was hoping that we would be able to program one to do one thing and one to do the other. Is that an option? I wanted to just, as we're thinking through these apps and stuff, I just wanted to double check that that is something that we can do.
Yeah, so the question was whether you can play different content on two different screens, and the answer is yes, you totally can. And I do want to show you. So just going to go back to the main group. Okay, so when I first mentioned that you can copy a display group, that would be the way to go. So, and the reason I say that is for each display group, you can add a new display. When you click add display, you get the specific setup phrase. That's great. Make sure that you name the display either with the location that it's going to be in, or have both. Have the location. If you have different sizes of screens, also have that. Just a recommended way to be able to easily tell which display you're about to modify if you do modify it in the future. However, you can have multiple displays here, or if you do make a copy of the group, what you can do is you can modify. If you, let's say, go into graphics and video, which was going to be my next app that I cover, and you set a certain schedule. Let's say for this post, we want to set a schedule. You can have something on this display group, and then if you, let's say, make a copy of ITS test and have, let's say, ITS test 2, or I did notice there was like a library left or library right. You can actually separate your display groups by copying one group and then modifying the other to be different and moving over your display to that other group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I just was trying to follow along with you right now, and I created a new display group and it's not showing up. So maybe that's something we can talk about later. I don't want to take up too much time with my specific question, but like I did,
yeah, we can definitely look.
I copied the group because in the display group on our end, it says 2 displays in the display group, and I would like to be able to separate those into, one has just a static image or like 2 or 3 images that go through, and the other one is like a little bit more dynamic. And so would I like delete one display, like copy the group and make like a display left and display right?
So,
yeah.
Right, so to more specifically show you, once you copy, let's say, the library group and make your copy, let's say library and then left or whatever it is, so that you can make that distinguish them. Once you do that, you can come back to this original library group and then choose which display you want to move and click swap display group.
Oh, I see.
Once you swap display group, it'll give you a list of the other groups that you can move it to.
Okay, because mine doesn't have all those selections. I just made that library. If you click that again real quick, what you just clicked, and you'll see library right monitor. That's the one that I just made, the display group I just made. But on my screen, when I click the swap display group button, I only see library. It doesn't have library right monitor.
Okay, let me just quickly check. It should be somewhere in here. It might just have to do with like the user privileges. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and double check that, because of the way Enplug is, set up. It might just be that when you do copy a group, you don't automatically get access to it, but we can fix that easily. So actually, let me see. Let me go ahead and do that real quick.
Thank you.
I think I might have to do that from the user groups. You know what? I'll do that right after the training session,
Yeah,
because that is in a different area.
Thank you.
Yes. But yes, good question. You have the ability to split them and swap the displays easily. So
great. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions that have to do with the social media apps or the collage app? Right. Moving on. Graphics and videos. So another application that we like to use extensively, actually, is the Graphics and Videos app. And the reason we like this one is, imagine a scenario where you don't quite always post everything to your social media. This is where graphics and video comes to use for you. So when you think of social media, it's more, user engagement, especially to engage our students, to give them vital information. But sometimes you might want to just create graphics to display on your digital display and not necessarily share it on social media. So you can always get, and I'll show you where to get the dimensions of your display as well once you add the display. Here, you can upload all of the custom graphics and videos that you create. So it is really on you to be able to make the graphics accessible. So do keep that in mind. I do continue to emphasize that. But once they're done and they're complete, they're ready to be put on the display, just click upload. And you do have the ability to browse your local computer, or if it's saved on a Google Drive, you can go there. If it's saved on your OneDrive, you can also go there. You can sign in with your OneDrive and grab whatever content you have there. You have a lot of different options to go with. And this is also where you would upload videos as well. For videos, what I generally prefer to do is to go to the YouTube app, because a lot of our videos are already on YouTube. And so it just prevents having to, do extra steps. So, and it also kind of prevents maybe bogging down the system too much if you do happen to upload video. But it's really up to you. You can still play around with uploading maybe short clips into the graphics and video app. But otherwise, whatever you put on here, it's ready for you to edit the details of. For example, I'm going to go back to the post that I showed you earlier. You can choose which display groups you want them to be on. So once you upload something, go ahead and click edit details, just like I showed you, and choose the specific display groups that you want them on. For a library, it would be 2 display groups, the original one and then the right monitor one. Once you set that, if you are going to have any kind of specific scheduling for it, you would do that from the Schedule tab. And this Schedule tab is found pretty much in most of the applications. You can set the priority play from here. And if you're not sure how something works, their user support is really great, but they also have the little tips. If you hover over the little question mark next to the feature, it gives you a rough summary of how it would work. So here it tells us that it's going to take over basically anything else that you have in your regular rotation. And so usually we don't use this unless it's something, very important. The only time I've seen it being used is maybe, let's say, commencement, and public affairs is having that option turned on. So it doesn't, delete any of your regular rotation. It just, again, takes over the screen. If you want to schedule it for later, you could choose to turn that on, limited days, limited time. So we can go ahead and, play around with some of these. I'm not going to save any changes, but as you can see, you can choose specific days. If you leave it alone, it'll basically just be in the rotation all the time, and it'll display it randomly at different times, still keeping it engaging for everyone. If you want to go even more detailed, you could be specific with the time limit, the schedule for later, that is also available starting a certain day. For example, if you're going to have a certain event, this might be useful for that. You can have it end at a certain time as well, and then it'll just not display. I'm not sure if it'll, delete it from your library, but it will not display if you set an end day. If you want it to repeat, let's see. Yeah, so if you want something to repeat, it just means that it's going to show it more often than other content. And we already covered priority play. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these off. And with anything, if you made changes that you don't want to save, then just don't click save. You can just simply exit out of them. Let's see. If you want like a quick time frame of, let's see. I'm actually not too sure what this time frame really displays. I think it might just be displaying what was played today. But if you want to see something else I do want to show you is if you want to see all the content that was, part of your display groups, like all your display groups, then you can click this top drop down right here and click the library, and it'll show you all the content that displays across all your groups. So here, we have a lot of different things. That's why the scroll bar actually goes on and on and on. But for the library, if you want to see both of the display content together, just so you could distinguish what you want to remove, what you want to keep, you can always click the drop down and then click library. If you want to be specific, you can click the drop down and then go to each display and see the shorter version. So, there isn't, too much to do as an administrator here. For the most part, you just set it and you're done. The only time you really need to come back to the Enplug platform is if you're troubleshooting, if the system happens to have upgraded, let's say, some of their applications, and if it loses a connection to your account, you might just be notified in your email account of that, and then just have to log in, just make sure to reconnect it, and that's it. We have had that happen a couple of times over the past several years now, so it doesn't happen too often, but sometimes when they update their applications, then you might get a notification. It's nothing to really worry about because it does still have other content to play, like the graphics and videos that you might put in here. But for social media, sometimes that does happen. Just log in and reconnect them. Okay. I'm going to move on to the YouTube app, and then after this, there isn't too much to cover. So we'll have a little time for additional questions and anything else that you might want to cover. So YouTube, it's really simple to customize. I'm going to go ahead and go to the YouTube app now. The way the YouTube app works is you click Add Video, and then you paste in a URL. The other thing that I would recommend doing is showing the video captions if they're available. And if you really want to, because I believe you can, yeah, we don't have a video in here, so let me go into one of these. Yeah, so if you paste in a video URL, you can also upload an image that you wanted to display between videos loading. We haven't really done that because it's a really short amount of time, but you do have that option. And if you want to test the video, make sure that that video is going to play, it has the test video option. And as you can see, it displays. There isn't, too much to do in this application. You just add the video and then you can set the order. But what you want to keep in mind is it's not going to play these videos right after one another. What it's going to do is it's going to play a YouTube video, and then it's going to switch to Instagram. And then after Instagram, it's going to display maybe one of your graphics and videos, like the manual ones that you uploaded. And then after that, it's going to go to Facebook. And so it randomizes it. So it will display in the order that you put, but it'll be every other time that you might see it. Hopefully that makes sense. And the reason that they create this kind of stream in their content stream is to keep it different all the time. Back in the day when we had a different way of displaying our digital content on our digital display in the lobby, it was just the same thing all the time. And a lot of us already knew, the order by heart, and we knew exactly what was going to come next. But this way, because it's random, because sometimes it displays a YouTube video, sometimes it goes to a manual photo that we uploaded, sometimes it'll go to Instagram. It's always different. And so users are more engaged, they pay more attention. If we put something new up there, it'll pop up, and it's just better, in my opinion. So with any new videos that you might have uploaded to your YouTube account, you do have to come in here and link them. It's not going to automatically grab them. Also, if you make any changes, for example, if you delete a video from YouTube, come back here and delete it from this list as well. Or if you happen to make it private, if it's no longer valid information, don't forget to come in here and update it in here as well, because that part wouldn't be automatic. You would still have to take care of that. Okay. Moving on, help and support. Before I dive into their help and support, I want to kind of cover maybe like one general tip. There's multiple ways of navigating in Enplug. So if I click the little library drop down here, again, I can go to each specific display group. And yes, this way you can have different videos on different displays. So in the example of the library versus the library right monitor, you can have different videos on the library, the original display group. You can have other videos on your right monitor. And if you want to just double check that quickly to make sure that you do have different videos, then your library dropdown right here from the application screen is where you would do that, because I could quickly switch. As you can see, there's only 2 YouTube videos in library. If I go to library right monitor, there's more, because it was a copy and it hasn't been customized yet. So that's a good way to compare and contrast things. And this little library dropdown is available from pretty much all the applications. So if I go back to, let's say, Instagram, it has its own library dropdown. And that's so you can quickly change from one display group that you have to the other. All right, so user help and support. This is going to be real quick. The help and support is found at the top right of the navigation bar. Once you click the help icon, you actually have access to their video tutorials, and they do cover everything from their hardware to their online platform. You can also contact support. You can also just go to their general support center and do keyword search if you would like. FAQs, just get to know it a little better than what we were able to cover here today. And of course, our help desk is always there for you guys as well. If you have a quick question, you can reach out and we will try to help you. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording for now.